All right, guys, freak out, freak out, freak out. We got another episode of the Highest Pop Podcast. Ooh, yeah, I am the Macho. No, actually, no, it's Jeff Martin alongside the trendsetter Brian Berga, and we are on the Give Us a Shot Network on the HSP platform. Guys, what is going on? This is a very special time, man, because we got a great interview set up for you guys. Follow us on all our social media at Highest Pop Podcast. It is official, guys. We are back. And trendsetter, how you doing, first and foremost?
It's been a long road, man. It's been a little bit of a break, but I'm glad to be back here doing this with you, man.
Yeah, we got a great interview. Like I said, we got Shawn Manchester, who is going to join us here on the show. He's going to talk about this. Let me tell you something. This weekend was nostalgic, trendsetter, because I woke up Saturday morning and I check, of course, my social media, and I go on this timeline, on my timeline on the HSP podcast, and then I see this amazing Macho King replica. You remember the Macho King? That's very underrated. And in all of Macho Man's different versions, the Macho King is probably something that should be discussed more, because this was his transition after losing to Hulk Hogan, the WWF Championship at WrestleMania. He went into this Macho King phase. And of course, I'm a huge Macho Man fan, and now available to you guys, to you Macho Man Randy Savage fans, is a must-have Macho King replica crown, guys. And I saw this, and I'm sure if all you wrestling fans saw this on your timelines this past weekend, we're going to present to you right now the cool creator of this Macho King replica, and that is Shawn Manchester from Bulletproof Studios. Shawn, welcome to the HSP podcast. Ooh, yeah.
Freak out. Thanks for having me, guys.
Freak out. Shawn, man, I just want to tell you, man, the Macho Man made me a wrestling fan. So this really was very great to put this all together and get you on here, because you guys, had that debut this weekend of the Macho King replica crown. Talk about, first and foremost, your fandom for the Macho Man. Was that what brought this about? I know you've cosplayed a lot with the Macho Man. Just talk about your fandom for Macho Man Randy Savage.
For sure, yeah. So I've been a wrestling fan since I was about 3 or 4 years old, and growing up, like visiting my cousin's house and stuff, he always watched WCW. We were WWF kids, but when we go to his house, it was WCW. At that time, Randy Savage was there, and just his energy, his flamboyant costumes and stuff were how can it not just get you engaged, right? So fast forward some years, I start getting into special effects makeup and doing home movies with my friends from high school and stuff. Then that started turning into I'm from Rhode Island, and around 2013 we had our first ever Comic-Con here, and that's kind of when I transitioned from special effects artist to cosplay and costume making, prop making, and all that stuff. And one of my go-tos was I got to do a Randy Savage something, because how can you not, especially a massive wrestling fan than I am. So at the time I was working at a movie theater, and it was a 80s party theme for Halloween, and I went as Macho Man, and I didn't do anything screen accurate. It was very just flashy, just as long as I had the tassels, the cowboy hat, the glasses, all that, I was good to go. So as that progressed, I just started trying all of his different outfits, because he has a million to choose from, right? So just kind of kept going and going, and then people I share them on Instagram, on Facebook, and people started to really gravitate towards it. Man, this stuff is really good, man. I like to take my time, and attention to detail is key for me. And then that kind of transitioned into, I was watching WrestleMania 7 on a Blockbuster VHS, and they were doing the promo leading up to him against Warrior, and I saw that crown. I was like, I gotta try to make that. That's so cool. And my first couple of renditions were really bad, and it was when I first getting into making stuff out of foam, and I made it out of foam, and it was okay. It wasn't the best, and as I grew as an artist, it's you learn new techniques, you gather more tools, you meet other artists that inspire you and help you out. And then we were, I think, about 11 years developing this. And my number one thing is I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to do it right by Randy too. And when I would post like a crown that I made for my personal collection, it just got bombarded with messages like, I want to buy one. I need one of these. I'm like, well, I can't just, sell these, So after years of trying to research and further develop it, we came across the company that has his license. And I immediately sent out an email, just shot in the dark, like, hey, like I sent him as many pictures as I could of all my costumes, all of mine. I'm like, I'm a massive, massive Randy Savage fan. People are clamoring for this. Like, what can we do to make this happen? So after, a few months of going back and forth, like here we are. And so I'm an independent artist, right? And in order to get this going, I need startup capital, and I'm not like a massive company. And so to get this going for the people, we went the Kickstarter route to try to just raise the initial funds for 25. That like helps us get the base that we need to launch. And it's only been about 3 days and we're at 22. So I'm very grateful and appreciative of everybody that's been supporting this.
Yeah, man. I mean, you take a look at it. It really looks top notch, man. So all the links are in the bio for Bulletproof LLC. Follow on their Instagram at Bulletproof Studios LLC. So now, do you need to get to 25 for it to be distributed, or are those people guaranteed the crowns now that they've put up the money for it?
So as long as we hit 25, it's guaranteed. We can go beyond 25, but if we do less than 25, then it's just the production doesn't happen. Nobody gets charged. It just, I don't see that happening. As I said, it's only been a couple of days and we're pretty much there, and we have about 56 more days to go. So I think we're going to be okay. It's good because this does really well. That leads to other things that we can potentially make, his scepter, like, so, it's kind of sky's the limit.
Well, I was going to ask you, besides the scepter, were there any versions of Randy Savage besides the Macho King, which was one of Jeff's favorites growing up as a kid, that you liked? Was it the WCW days? What other versions of Savage? I mean, one of the most ones that I can remember too is when he came out with Gorgeous George. It was completely revamped, 100%. That was just a different version of Macho Man we'd seen before. Are there any versions that also interest you in doing possibly once, obviously, this gets going with the whole Macho King crown?
Yeah, I mean, that's really I really like his robes, and if I could figure out a way to mass distribute these robes, I mean, there are so many you can do. And, now that this is out, everyone's like, well, I want a robe to go with this. I want the scepter to go with this. It's like, well, let's make this work. Let's make this happen. And you never know. We're a prop company, so it's really, what can we do? That's like really like do we do his cowboy hats? Do we do his sunglasses? We might dabble into like making like high detailed statues, maybe. He has so many great looks. It's kind of endless, really.
I think one of the first people to, of course, who's been influenced by, a lot of us have been influenced by Randy Savage, but one of those people who makes doesn't hide is Matt Cardona. And I remember him in GCW when he had the kind of brought out the crown too, and I was like, oh man, this guy's really paying tribute to Macho Man really well. And I think once, I mean, you're gonna hit the 25, and this is gonna grow, and the sky's the limit. Fingers crossed for you guys. Obviously he's influential. What's the other wrestlers? Any other wrestlers contacted you or messaged you about this in specific? I know Mark Cardona is obviously a collectibles guy and everything like that. Any wrestlers have reached out to you about this if they had seen it this past weekend?
Well, funny thing about Matt Cardona, I actually made his crown. So the ones that he wears, I have one right here. This is a replica that we sell of his. So we sell these, and then soon we'll sell these. So, and this actually signed for me. So
that's great.
That is awesome.
But yeah, the chromed out one that he actually wears to the ring, we also did that one for him. Obviously, that's a special one-off for him. So our technique of doing the replicas are a little different because we already have a lot of complaints about the price, and I get that. but in order to still make it feasible, like I can't do like a chrome finish. I would have to charge more, and it's unfortunate. But I think the finish, like again, a part of the years of research is just getting this correct paint job. Like what looks clean, what looks nice, like what looks, like it. And I think we nailed it.
I think you definitely nailed it as well. I mean, when I first looked at it, I thought, man, there are a lot of scenarios sometimes where you see replicas of things, especially championship titles, and there are some good ones and there are some bad ones out there, right? But when I looked at this one, I was like, wow, this is really spot on. And when you compare it to the photos, because I'm sure you did your research on that, it's like you looked at every single bit of detail to go along with this, which is why, it's such a good replica in terms of why people would want it, because it's so close to the authentic thing. For me, the question I want to ask is like, how long does it take the process to just produce one of these in general? How long does it take you to do that? And in the process of what you're doing now, in terms of waiting for all the orders to come in once you guys reach your number, just walk us through the process of actually getting one completed and done, and all the details that go into it.
Sure. So yeah, we made a master, 3D sculpted, and we print the master, and then we make a mold, and then we pull casts, and then we kind of goes to sanding. We want to make sure there's no blemishes, we want to make sure it's perfectly smooth, and then we send it over and we start painting them. And then the thing that takes the longest is just in between the colors, because there's stage, you got to do a gloss black, then you hit it with the gold to get that extra pop. And then we want to do a proper clear coat, so that way, there's no fingerprints, smudges, or anything like that. In between each of those coats is a few days. So you want to make sure the paint properly cures. While that's curing, we also are casting the purple gems out of epoxy, and those take about 3 days to cure. So we're kind of like setting this 25 batch kind of thing. So the first 25 people that are ordering, like once Kickstarter is over, like they're going to be the first to receive theirs. And then it's going to kind of keep going from there. And that way we can kind of set every crown up in stages. Like, okay, batch 1 through 25 is in molds. And now, or we're just pulling them out, getting ready for paint. Now batch 2 is going to go in, and kind of do it that way so people aren't waiting. Because like the other thing that kind of took us a while is, let's get this process right where like people order it and they're not waiting years. I've ordered Randy Savage figures from other companies, like not like Mattel, or like smaller companies, and it's like a year and a half later it comes in the mail. It's like, we don't want to do that. We want, our goal is Kickstarter ends at the end of July, and we want batch 1 to be in hand by like mid-September. So it gives us about a month or so to really just, cast, paint, and finish and send these out.
Wow.
And I mean, with all the precision, this is very detailed. This is obviously, he knows what he's talking about. He's done this before. So obviously the price range, be damn, man, because to me, that is a value, honestly, for that crown. I've seen, for example, other stuff go like much higher, I'm talking about like other things. To me, this is to start off. And to do this is a great value. So you're the first 25, you're getting the first 25, and you're getting something that obviously, if you take a look at the process, right, this is something that's very detailed and takes a long time, and you're getting something made, and it's obviously it's labor of love to these crowns that are the first 25 that you get. And then the more that come by, obviously you're gonna realize once you witness and you hold it and then you put it on, yeah, this was really worth the money.
That's the thing. It's the key thing is, because I obviously have the prototype that we've been using for marketing and stuff. And, when people come to my house and see it and they hold it, they're like, oh, this is way better than the picture. Like that, like it has weight to it. It's about like 4 or 5 pounds. Like it's high quality. Like we're not skimping out on materials. Like, I get comments of like, well, resin's cheap and paint is cheap. He's like, yeah, but they're cheap. And we don't want to do that. We want to get higher quality paints, higher quality, so it's a high quality product. And, we're not Mattel, we're not WWE, we're not like a factory that are like, we could just produce 5,000 of these in no time for like next to nothing. And then, okay, now we turn around and it's like $150. We can't do that. It's me and one other artist that are doing these. So, we have to pay the licensing fee. We got to pay for packaging art. We got to pay for shipping. We got to pay for all the materials. And, we got to have a little to, further this so we can do future projects. So, I get it. It's a little steep, but trust me, it's worth it.
Yeah, now with other stuff like you said, trendsetter, right? Like in the market right now, this is to me a great value for the macho. See, this is the thing, like for the Macho Man fan, this to me is a no brainer because this is
Right.
something that is like this is the crown, and this is like where you can find this, And then believe it or not, the first 25, once this thing gets it, it's gonna be you're gonna make your double the money here if you decide to maybe to resell it, right? Because that's the game sometimes too, right? Let me get this, hold on to it, and then as the market asks for it, you're gonna make your money back and then some on this crown. And for me, I would just keep it and just wear it around everywhere I go because that's how much of a fan I am. So, and then the funny thing is too, we're excited to get the interview locked in, right? And then we're trying to find, we can get it done this week. That's great. And then all of a sudden, the Macho Man documentary was on A&E this past weekend. How freaking cool is that?
Oh, wow.
So I had this whole weekend of Macho Man Randy Savage from the morning where I saw this, and then the next day we had the documentary on A&E. It's just crazy how everything works out, dude. And I gotta say, like, let's just share some memories real quick here because obviously all the information here is on their Instagram. So, Shawn, before we get into some nostalgia and talk some stories, just where can they find this coming from you? All this info.
So everything is on our website. It's bulletproof-studios.com. And another thing, after the Kickstarter ends, and when it launches, it's a success. It's going to move over to our website where you can order them there. So it's not like once the Kickstarter is over, it's done. Like we want to, still have it available. So if somebody, changes their mind or like they start seeing like other people they know that have it, like, ooh, now I really want one. So you can still go to our website and get one. But again, it's going to be a turnaround where it's going to take a little time to make, and then you'll send them out. But again, a 2-week limit is really we want them out. And so yeah, our Instagram, Bulletproof Studios LLC. You can pretty much everything is linked. All the link to the Kickstarter is there. We're trying to post as much as we can to just get as much information out. We did just post about a half hour ago. Thank you to the first 25. They're going to get a limited print done by me and Hal Haney Art. And on the back, it's going to be numbered and signed by me. So it's authenticated. Like you were one of the first 25. Here's the number order that you got. If you're number 7, it says 7 out of 25. And it's signed by me. So that's like a thank you to us for being like one of the first supporters.
That's awesome, man. In terms of like, when I see a lot of these collectibles or things that are made, whether it be like, I'll even go out there where I was a huge fan of Thundercats growing up as a kid. They came out with the claw, they came out with the Iron Man helmet that actually closes in, and Power Rangers helmets, and they look so good to the real thing, and just a nostalgia that goes into it where it's like. Initially, Jeff and I look at this and we're like, it doesn't matter how much it costs. This thing's going to start flying off the market, basically, which is what kind of is happening right now. For the demand for it, though, too, it just opened the doors to a lot of possibilities. And to me, you have comic book fans, you have Comic-Con, too, but I don't think, honestly, in my opinion, guys, there's nothing more nostalgic than wrestling fans when they look at their favorite scenarios, and here we're just isolating Macho Man Randy Savage and all the versions of his character that have been out there. How to this day we're still talking about him, and people still know to this day. If you go, ooh yeah, and Jeff's wearing the sunglasses too, you just know exactly what you're talking about. It's just very few and far between, which is why stuff like this is so memorable and so iconic to most people in terms of more of a sentimental value. More of, I guess, would you probably think for yourself too, making these, it's more of people just kind of harnessing back to their youth again and always wanting to hold on to it. When they look at that crown, whether they will wear it or not, it's more of just a look back at the time when they were kids watching wrestling and having a good time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what it is for me. Like I look at it on my shelf and it's just, I think back to, watching WrestleMania 7 or like that time of where he was. And then the funny thing is like, he wasn't Macho King for very long, but it still makes an impact in a way. So he's still like, he's just looking at the crown. It's like, oh man, like I'm back in like 91, like.
I'm sure we all wish we were back in 91, right?
Oh,
like the cinematography, it wasn't like the crowns, like those ones that you even see now that they have for the King of the Ring. It was different, and to me, it probably had a lot to do with Macho Man Randy Savage and having his input in it as well. You didn't get those hokey dokey ones like Harley Race had, or or Haku or Duggan when it was just that one. I'm pretty sure Macho Man made it his own, and I'm pretty sure he had a lot to do with it. And then he comes out to a Sherry. Sherry was just, to me, Liz and Macho, but then Sherry and the Macho Man too, just to have that heel gimmick, the Queen Sherry. Dude, that was awesome. Then he came out on that big thing where the wrestlers had to, carry them to the ring. That was so, and like I said, it was only a limited time, but I mean, I think that's what makes it good, because limited is good in this kind of business, because this is something that it's a scepter, the crown, and yes, the outfits too, but him being able to reinvent himself. There's some wrestlers now that can reinvent themselves, but for him, after going with the robes and then being the Macho Man, losing the title to Hogan, having to reinvent himself afterwards, giving him something to do after while Hogan has his run. I mean, this to me was simply amazing. It was short, but amazing.
Right. And it's, through the research that we did, like, it's because it's so limited, it was very hard to find very good references. But yeah, you did a lot of digging. And then it's funny because he actually had like multiple versions of the crown itself. Yeah. So it's like, okay, now which one do we pick? So like, we kind of just went with like the original, the one that he got in the coronation. And then when he got the robe, and like his brother was there, the genius, and that. So we kind of went off of that, and then again, you never know. Maybe we make that different version, like with the sequin, with the rhinestones and the holographic look to it. Like
now Sean's just printing money, Jeff. Honestly.
Yeah. Tell me, there's fans there are just like this, like, do it. The wrestling community. We've been doing this podcast for, a little over 5 years, and then going to these WrestleManias, visiting all these cities. One thing about wrestling fans, they're so loyal to the wrestlers, to either company. Obviously, all the tribalism between AEW, WWE, and then there was WWE, WCW. How fans get, right? So they have their, they have their loyalties, and, wrestling fan being loyal to their guy obviously is something too, man. Like Macho Man got me into it. There's no podcast without his influence too, and just like I said, from the glasses to to everything. Look at these glasses, still go. I mean, these come back in.
Oh, right? I see people wearing them everywhere. Yeah,
come back in style, and and Jey Uso's wearing. I know he's doing that kind of like a tribute to Bret Hart with the Yeet and everything like that. But even that kind of, the first person I think of is Randy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking about Bret Hart too. The iconic sunglasses that Bret Hart would wear, the jackets, the different version of leather jackets he would wear to different events too. It's that when you speak of pro wrestling memorabilia, all fans I feel go crazy about it. They enjoy it. They love it too. Shawn, I wanted to ask you. I mean, you're doing a great job here in terms of what we're talking about, and just to me, the authenticity of how real these replicas look similar to Macho Man. Is there anything? It doesn't have to be a Macho Man Randy Savage. Is there any piece of replica that you wish, if you're a collector collecting them, you wish you had of right now? What's one particular thing you wish you had in your collection?
So I made a version for the figure, but I would like to have a life-size Undertaker throne from like '99 when he was in the Ministry.
Yeah,
and just sitting on that. I have a Lord Zed throne that I did a Lord Zed cosplay in 2018, and we did a booth, and I had the throne, and we sat and took photo ops and stuff. So it's like, have that next to that would be sick. Yeah, Taker and Macho are my top two guys. So,
Jeff, you said you're talking about Lord Zed throne. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. This is
scroll down on Instagram. I was Skeletor. I worked with Mattel doing Skeletor.
Oh, I'm huge.
Yeah, we did Zed and Goldar. John Cena called us, shouted us out for our Goldar costume. Yeah,
that is awesome.
I'm surrounded by very talented artists and very dedicated to our craft. And even like some of the guys I work with aren't necessarily wrestling fans, but working with them through projects like this, they start turning into wrestling fans. Like, well, what is this? And then I start showing promos, matches, and like, oh, this is great. And it's like, yes, I got another one. Welcome.
Any famous promo of Randy that stuck out for you the most?
I mean, how can you not go with cream of the crop? Yeah.
Randy, man, the promo is one of the top promo guys. I mean, unbelievable. And the final one for me is we've seen a lot of people really nail the Macho Man traditional voice, right? Traditional voice. You've been around the block. You've seen the Dan Soders. I'm pretty sure Will Sasso does. What is who does to you right now the best Randy Savage impression?
I think Dan Soder, hands down.
Got that extra bass, right?
He's got that. Yeah. Yeah, like he can really get down in there, you know.
Well,
Will's is great too. I love Will Sasso. His Jesse Ventura though is
he does an amazing job as Jesse Ventura. Exactly.
Why are they?
Jake the Snake?
Yeah,
Chris Van Vliet. That was great too. I'm like, God damn, dude! Like you can really just tap into anybody.
Why even talk to Jesse Ventura when they can just get Will Sasso for half the price, probably, and he can just do that. Yeah, right. So listen, man, Shawn, totally appreciate you. Gonna outro you here in my best Macho Man impression. So we got Shawn Manchester, from Bulletproof Studios on the Kickstarter Network, talking about the Macho King crown. Yeah, with the trendsetter and myself, the madness. Feel the madness. Oh yeah. Let me tell you something. Shawn Manchester in this crown right here is gonna do amazing things. Yeah, guaranteed. I feel it in my bones. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Shawn. And again, we got your support here. Anytime you want to come back on, anytime you want to discuss wrestling or you want to have other projects, please feel free. You always have a home here on the Give Us a Shot Network, here at the HSP podcast. And my dude, you're gonna hit the 25, and this thing's gonna hit, and hopefully you remember us, the little people. On your way to the top, because the cream always rises to the top. Yeah.
Well, I can't ever thank you guys enough, and I will never forget this. This is actually my first ever podcast interview, so this will definitely live in my memory forever. And it's great that I got to share it with two massive, not only Randy Savage fans, but wrestling fans. I'd love to come back on anytime, guys. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you, Shawn.
All right, guys. Have a good one.